Ever get that feeling, where you agree to something and later you're like, wait, why did I say yes to that? Like, how did I end up with this closet full of clothes I never wear? Or eat that weird mushroom pizza my friend insisted on. It's like we're constantly being nudged and swayed even when we don't realize it. So today we're going deep into the psychology of persuasion.
Mhm.
No, not the manipulative kind, but the kind that makes you a more savvy communicator and maybe helps you avoid that next questionable pizza order.
Yeah.
You know, one of the most important things I got from all this is the power of perspective, seeing things from the other person's point of view. It's not about trickery, right? It's about understanding what makes them tick. Remember my old college roommate, Sarah? She could convince anyone to do anything. I swear one time she even got our grumpy landlord to fix a leaky faucet and bake us cookies. Her secret. She was a master at framing. Instead of complaining about the drip, drip, drip driving us crazy, she focused on how worried she was the leak would damage the beautiful hardwood floors in the apartment below. Genius, right? She appealed to his sense of responsibility, not to mention his desire to avoid a costly repair. So the lesson, figure out what the other person cares about and frame your pitch around their desires, not your own. It's a subtle shift, but it makes all the difference. But there's more to it than just understanding desires. It's like we all speak different languages, even when we're speaking English, right? Some folks are all about the big picture, while others need every single detail spelled out. Some are moved by emotion, others by cold, hard facts. It's kind of like dating, actually. You wouldn't use the same pickup line on everyone, would you? I once tried to impress a date by quoting Nietzsche. Didn't go so well. Turned out she was more of a Taylor Swift fan. Anyway, the point is, you need to recognize these different communication styles and adjust your approach accordingly. Like if you're dealing with someone who's super analytical, don't bombard them with feelings and vague ideas. Hit them with the facts, the figures, the evidence. On the other hand, if you're talking to someone who's more emotionally driven, a personal anecdote or a heartfelt story can be way more persuasive than a spreadsheet. It's about speaking their language, but on a deeper level. And let's be real, being likable doesn't hurt either. Remember that time I tried to sell my old car? I posted it online with all the specs and the mileage, everything, and got crickets. Then I remembered something from all this persuasion research. People buy from people they like. So I rewrote the ad, focusing on the car's personality. How it had been my trusty sidekick on countless adventures. I even threw in a funny story about how it once helped me escape a swarm of bees. Suddenly, I was flooded with inquiries. Turned out that what people really wanted wasn't just a car. They wanted a story, a connection. But there's a difference between being genuinely likable and just trying to be everyone's best friend. It's about finding common ground, mirroring the other person's vibe, making them feel like you're on the same wavelength. You know that feeling when you meet someone and you just click? That's the kind of connection that makes persuasion effortless. Now, here's where things get a little tricky. We all know credibility matters, right? We're more likely to be persuaded by someone we perceive as an expert. I learned this the hard way when I tried to give my neighbor investment advice based on, let's just say, some creative interpretations of the stock market. He politely declined. But then he hired a financial advisor with a fancy suit and a bunch of acronyms after his name, and suddenly he was all ears. The takeaway. Aligning yourself with credible sources and experts in the field can add serious weight to your words, even if you haven't quite reached guru status yourself. But even with all the credibility in the world, you still need to present your case in a way that's compelling, right? It's like, you can have the best ingredients, but if you don't know how to cook, you're not going to win any culinary awards. It reminds me of this time I tried to convince my family to go on a camping trip. I had visions of us roasting marshmallows under the stars, bonding around the campfire. All they could picture was mosquitoes
Huh.
and dirt and uncomfortable sleeping bags. What was my mistake? I focused on the logistics of camping instead of the experience. What I should have done was highlight the positive aspects, the beauty of nature, the thrill of adventure, the chance to disconnect from the digital world. I could have even thrown in some scarcity, like, this secluded campsite is only available for a limited time. What? It's not about lying. It's about framing the information in a way that makes your option irresistible. Speaking of irresistible, there's this tiny little word that can have a surprisingly big impact on persuasion. Because. I know it sounds crazy, right? But our brains are wired to crave justification even for the smallest decisions. Remember that time I needed to borrow my neighbor's lawnmower? I could have just asked, but instead I was like, hey, would you mind if I borrow your lawnmower? Because mine's in the shop and I really need to tame this jungle before my in-laws come over. He didn't hesitate for a second. That because gave him a reason, a justification, even if it was a bit silly. And here's another psychological tool that's super helpful when it comes to understanding people's motivations. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know that pyramid thing, right? It basically outlines the different levels of human needs, from the basic survival stuff like food and shelter, all the way up to more complex needs like self-esteem and self-actualization. So how does this apply to persuasion? Well, let's say you're trying to sell someone on a luxury vacation package. If they're worried about making rent, that trip to Bali is going to be the furthest thing from their mind. But if you can frame it as an investment in their well-being, a chance to de-stress and recharge so they can be more productive at work, well, certainly that vacation starts to look a lot more appealing. It's all about understanding where someone is on that hierarchy and tailoring your approach accordingly. Now let's dive into something a little more controversial. Subliminal messaging. Is it real? Can you actually influence someone's behavior with hidden messages? Well, the idea of like brainwashing someone with subliminal messages is a bit far-fetched. But there's no denying that language can be used to subtly nudge people in a certain direction. Like, remember those embedded commands we talked about earlier? Phrasing a question in a way that assumes compliance can make it harder for someone to say no. Instead of asking, do you want to meet for coffee? You could say, so when are you free to grab coffee this week? It's like you're planting a seed in their subconscious, making it easier for them to say yes. And while it's not mind control, it definitely taps into the power of suggestion. We all have these subconscious triggers that influence our behavior, and language is a powerful tool for activating them. And it reminds me of this marketing campaign I worked on a few years back. We were promoting a new energy drink, and we wanted to appeal to a younger, more adventurous audience. So instead of just talking about how the drink could boost your energy, we subtly embedded messages of freedom, excitement, living life on your own terms. We used phrases like break free, unleash your potential, and embrace the unknown. And guess what? Sales went through the roof. Now, I can't say for sure whether it was the subliminal messaging or just a really good product, but it definitely got people talking. But let's not forget that persuasion can be used for good or for, well, let's just say less than noble purposes. It's like any tool, right? A hammer can build a house or break a window. It all comes down to the intent of the user. I'm thinking of this time I went to a used car lot, and let's just say the salesman was a little too good at his job. He used every trick in the book, framing, scarcity, even a little bit of that embedded command stuff, and I almost fell for it. I was this close to signing on the dotted line for a car I didn't need and probably couldn't afford. But at the last minute, something felt off. It's like a little voice in my head saying, wait a minute, this isn't right. So I walked away. And you know what? I'm so glad I did. It was a reminder that while persuasion can be a powerful tool, it's important to be aware of when it's being used on you and to be mindful of your own intentions when you're using it. But let's shift gears for a second. We've been talking about all these external tactics, but what about the internal stuff? Like, what about those aha moments that seem to come out of nowhere? Those times when a solution to a problem just pops into your head, as if by magic. Have you ever considered that maybe those seemingly spontaneous insights were actually the result of seeds that were planted long ago, perhaps without us even realizing it? Think about it. We're constantly bombarded with information, ideas, suggestions, and it all gets stored away somewhere in our subconscious minds. Like, I remember this time I was struggling with a creative block. I was working on a new song, and I just couldn't come up with a decent melody. I was starting to get seriously frustrated. So I decided to take a break, went for a walk in the park, just trying to, clear my head. And you know what? As I was walking, this melody just popped into my head. It was like it came out of nowhere. But looking back, I realized that I had been listening to a lot of jazz music that week, and the melody I came up with had a distinctly jazzy feel to it. It's like those jazz chords had somehow seeped into my subconscious and influenced my creative process without me even realizing it. And it makes me wonder, how much of our thinking, our decision-making, is influenced by these subtle, almost invisible forces? It's a pretty mind-blowing concept, right? It suggests that we're far more interconnected and influential than we often realize. It makes me think about persuasion in a whole new way. Maybe it's not just about the immediate message we deliver, but about the long-term impact we have on people's thoughts and beliefs. It's about planting seeds of inspiration that can blossom into positive change. So as you go about your day, pay attention to those subtle hints, those seemingly random thoughts and ideas that pop into your head. You never know, they might be the result of a persuasive seed that someone planted, whether intentionally or unintentionally. And who knows, maybe you'll inspire someone with a seed of your own. It's a fascinating world we live in, filled with endless possibilities for connection, influence, and, persuasion. So go out there and use your newfound knowledge wisely. And maybe, just maybe, you'll discover that you're more of a master persuader than you ever realized.